Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. And I'm going to hand over to Simone. Without further ado, can I just remind you guys, please, to turn off your cameras while Simone is presenting and to make sure that you mute yourself as well. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy.
Alrighty. Hi, everybody. Can everyone hear me? Okay.
We can, but we've got your presenter view.
Oh,
yeah.
This is much more fun to do it in real life.
That's better. Got
yep. You. Cool. No worries. Welcome to the third and final Media and Communications workshop. Thanks everybody for sticking it out this long. Really appreciate it. Today's session, it does look like a lot of stuff, but it's all the little stuff, so we should get through it reasonably quickly. There's a cuppa break right in the middle, so we're going to do 4 of those. Have a bit of a break, and remember, anybody who's got any questions, feel free to sing out in the chat box during the session, and you can also email me after with any questions. So I want to start with the homework review. Thanks for everybody who sent their pictures in, really appreciate it. I'm going to start with this one. I love this shop for a number of reasons. Pink and green go really well together, they stand out. Also kids, nothing is cuter than farm kids, particularly farm kids with what looks like a missing tooth. So very cute, got the glass milk near the face, which is key if you're trying to get someone to you know, look at the person. People sell papers. Really good. But I'm going to crop it here, and I just want everybody to see the power of cropping, because now we can actually see the little missing tooth, which is cute. We can see the little milk mo, and to me that says happy, sort of you know, I'm really happy, I'm drinking milk, very healthy, that sort of thing. So that was cropped with just the standard software that comes on a computer. I don't even know what it was. I just pressed click crop in the corner when it came through on my email. So yeah, keep in mind the power of cropping, guys. There's this picture. I really liked this one. Even though it doesn't have faces in it, I thought it was really clever to use the green background, so we're not distracted by anything else in the background. It's just grass, it's green, it's a good contrast to the white of the milk. It's also a doing picture, so we're clinking glasses, which is great, and where it's been cut off, it's not cut off at a really silly spot, like we're not missing anything in particular. So I think it was really good choice and good way to vary the photos, because this was one of 3 that came through. This other picture here, again with the milk mo, which I love, very clever. To me, in this photograph, what stands out most is the milk moustaches, and like I really like it. I think it's very clever that the milk's together. I don't know if that was done on purpose, but it makes the eye not wander. If I was to shoot this again, what I might do is I might use the green just as a background. So whether that's ability to come from above, so you don't get the trees dottering the skyline, which sort of breaks the picture up. You've just got the green in the background. And maybe if possible, you know, you cut the kids off at the waist and maybe bring the little boy up a bit taller for the girl, or vice versa. So they're sort of at the same level. But I really liked it. I thought it was super cute. So well done. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show, which was a request from last session, is basically a media plan. So this is one I ripped off one of my clients this morning and took a whole bunch of stuff out of it. And in case anyone was wondering, we just use Excel. I've never come, I'm sure the big public relations firms have some sort of software or something, but I've only ever used Excel with the work that I do. And when I was journalist, when I asked people what they use, they said they used Excel. So anybody who's wondering, so I've obviously ripped everything out of it. Otherwise it would have been, you might have been able to have a bit of an idea who it was. But so just this is the overall plan, and this is mostly for the actual traditional media. So we've got everything down the side that gets filled in. Across the top is all the different outlets. We had different, it was for a specific project, and which got a heap of media. It's just finished, got a whole bunch of media, and it was very targeted media, which we're going to go through later. But these people also put ads in, so they had the ad details, they had the stories available, they had the ideal stories that they'd like. So every single thing was in this. And in the notes sections was every time we contact someone or someone rings or we have a query, everything has to be documented because it has to be reported up to some large body. So yeah, it's just, I guess, a way to keep account. Now, this was the other page of it, which was basically a running list of media articles available because they often get asked to contribute stuff to local papers and agricultural papers. And the layout and the XYZ template, I changed that because they have their own special template, but that's for social media and or for their website and for their internal magazine. So it just keeps keeping a track of everything basically. And it also shows what hasn't been used. So if, say, you have a phone call from a journalist who wants something short time, you've got what you've got there, whether it's got photos, whether it's got graphics. So it's a really good sort of one-stop shop. And here's the social media one. I don't know if I'm going to disappoint anybody, but the reality is it's not overly fancy at all. It's this client has a theme for months generally. Sometimes they go for 3 weeks, but most of the time they go for a month. They post generally every second day, unless there's something that comes up that they need commenting on. They engage every day, but they always note everything that happens. So you've got your notes on the screen, you've got your timing when it went out. And in the notes, when I do it for them, when I fill in for them, I just put, whether it was, people liked it, it was shared. If people liked it straight away, all those sorts of things. And the content is generally a link to the Google Drive or Dropbox folder where the Canva tile or the photograph or whatever it is that's going in there. So I hope that helps people. Yeah, so they also note if they retweet or regram or share anything like that as well from sponsors or stakeholders. So everything gets noted in this. It's pretty simple, and yeah, it's a lot of record keeping as such, but it's a good way to go back and see what you've done. So today, I said we've got a bit to get through, but that's okay. We'll get through it hopefully really on time today. Headlines, I want to stress the importance of them. Some interview tips and tricks. Now, obviously not everybody gets interviewed, but I thought you can't have a media session without discussing this. Confidently managing media and building relationships. We'll get through this quite quickly because again, not everybody's in that boat, but I'd like to give you some tips and tricks on how to do that. Videos, we'll touch on that super quickly, and some software recommendations. I am not the best person to recommend software. I generally use what clients want me to use. However, I will tell you what I have been using and why I've been using it. So headlines, they're pretty important. Some of them are pretty obvious, which sometimes, is not such a bad thing, but this one made me laugh when I was Googling headlines. Sometimes they're stating the obvious, which is not always ideal. But the reality is with headlines, they make or break particularly a social media post. Now, there's a lot of information that says, a headline contributes up to 50% of the social media engagement. Now, you could read it, there's a lot of social media studies. I tend to believe this from the social media campaigns I've been involved in, simply because I'm more doing as such. Active headline does get more clicks on it, but fundamentally it's about what the content is. But if you've got a good headline, you're part the way there, I would say, all the time. And back to the first session that we discussed about, making sure we have the chunky important stuff at the top of the story. A headline contributes to that because a lot of people don't skim past the headline and then the first couple of sentences. So in my opinion, a good headline is a number of things, but one of them is that it gives you a pretty good idea of what you're about to read or watch or see. So here's one from the NFF. I nicked out of their newsletter. It's pretty self-explanatory. I also think headlines are part of telling the story. And I really liked this one. This came in a newsletter a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, from the Birchup Cropping Group in the Mallee. And when I saw that headline, I thought, beauty. Between the picture and the headline, I pretty much know exactly what it's about. And the other thing about this headline is that it's my favorite thing for a headline is that it's short. So that brings me to my next thing. A good headline is short. I've got an example here of perhaps what not to do, if that's okay. It's not great for layout when what they call your headline wraps. Like if it wraps to what they call 2 decks, which is 2 lines, that's okay, but it's not overly great for the eye. If it wraps to what they call what we've got in front of us, you know, that's not great either, because if you want to translate that to a social media post, it'll wrap again. So if you can, ideally, keep it short, sharp and shiny with your headlines. And yeah, too many words just confuses the topic anyway. So I have a good example of a short one. I saw this one on an email newsletter the other day too, and I thought, that's a perfect example. It literally is exactly what it's saying. Survey crop marketing intentions. Okay, we know what they're talking about. And the use of saying what it is rather than using their brand name in the headline means that they can start the story with their brand name. You know, Mikado has been engaged to explore growers' crop marketing intentions. So, you know, making it short, sharp and shiny and focusing on exactly what it is a really, really good way to be able to get your brand into the first line. So a good headline is definitely not the first line of the article or press release that you've written. So many times. And I see it in newspapers too. So and you know, occasionally I've been guilty of it because I've been in a real rush, but I hate it, and it's just not great. As you see, you know, organisation claims win for members in Labor story, or you know, Labor regulations, and then it's got the name of the organisation as the first sentence. Has won for its members, blah, blah, blah. Like, you're just reading the same thing twice. It's not adding anything to the story. It's not great. So if you can avoid that, guys, and back to the first session where we talked about using different words for the same thing, be really great if you could. A headline can also be Googled. So it works well with Google. Now, if it's on the web or on the Facebook and that sort of stuff, that's Google can pick it up. I'm not going to pretend I know heaps about Google Analytics, because I don't. But the reality is, from my experience working at a newspaper, which was also launching a website, is that if you put words in that people will Google for what you're talking about in your headline and into your analytics, it's going to help it pop up. So, you know, for example, you know, it could be field day McKillop Farm Management Group, or, you know, lamb prices now, Coles, or something like that. You know, if you're getting a couple of those words in headlines, it's going to help you right the way through with search engines. So here are some tips for engaging headlines. This is my favorite tip, and I use it all the time, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. If you add a number to something, it helps tell the story. Numbers tell stories that words can't. And as a writer, that's not great to admit, but it's true. They also, like, if you're doing, you know, top 10 tips for wine matching, for example, I've got there as an example, it's promising a length. So, you know, you're only going to read 10 tips. So, you know, people can make a decision whether they want to read through to the 10 tips, or, you know, once they've got back down to sort of 6 tips, they're like, oh, we've picked up most of them. The other one is that it actually paints a picture of what's going. Like, so if fertilizer sales are down 50%, that's quite significant. You know that as part of your industry, you know, and up to 20% of tractors aren't safe. Obviously, I made all these headlines up. I'm sure that's not the case. I hope not. But the reality is that numbers really do help headlines, and it's shown in the click rates all the time. This is one that I often debate, and I debate with clients, and I debate with all sorts of people. Putting your business name in the headline versus an organization name. My personal opinion is that if you're going to put a business name in a headline, it is an obvious plug. And when an obvious plug comes across a journalist's desk, they're more likely to press delete. However, an organization name, especially if it's a member-based organization and not-for-profit, those sorts of things, people tend to see them as working for a community or a group of people. So it tends to carry more weight. But that doesn't mean that businesses don't, for example, don't necessarily won't necessarily use a business name or a product name in a headline. It's just you can perhaps not be so blatant. So the best example I can think of is one I did recently, which was about sexed semen for a particular company. And we used the word sex genetics in the headline rather than the brand name of their sex semen, as everybody knows that sex genetics, well, everybody in the dairy industry knows that sex genetics is getting quite popular. But it was, I don't know, it was probably, I guess, disguised more as a news story when really it was product plug as a news story. So I feel like that might be quite applicable for quite a few guys on this call. But yeah, it's just something to weigh up when you're writing your headlines. And again, I want to stress, don't double up, which is pretty much similar to the other slide. It's if you're going to put your organization name in the first line, for example, so it was like McKillop Farm Management Group field day at Tantanoola, like our first example. You could put in that, one of the region's largest research and development organizations is blah, 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 blah. You don't want to use the same words all the time. Okay, so when you're writing headlines, there's a few words that work better than others. There's, I like to call them doing words for simplicity. So wins, claims, announces, helps, grows, boosts, all those sorts of things. They help explain something. Unfortunately, negative stuff rates really well. I don't know what that says about society, but it's been the case from the day dot. So, fight, stop, don't, all those sorts of words, they're short, they're sharp, they're shiny, they say what they're doing, and they tend to work quite well. Okay, another tip that I use probably a bit too much compared to what I should is and this goes again back to the first session where we're introducing the concept of you, the reader. So headlines can be questions. Now, it's a hook. It's, you're scrolling through your phone. It's trying to get you to stop and be like, hey, you look at this. Does this affect you? So, have you spread enough urea? ? What do your wieners look like ? Oh, I don't know. Here's a picture of some really good looking ones with the story. Maybe I should read on to make sure that they look like that. And one I saw not so long ago, it was from a safety business, and they said, when was your last machinery maintenance check? And to be honest, that actually stopped me, not because of the headline, because I was like, actually, that's a good point. When was it? So, the question mark works really well to engage a reader, as long as you keep your headline short. The other things that work and aren't always super duper obvious are the dash and the colon. I use dashes a lot in writing, and that's because I learned to write with News Corp, but they work super duper well in headlines. A dash, you're putting a dash in, and I guess it's like adding a comment as such. It's like you would perhaps put brackets in a story, but brackets make it look clunky. You put a dash in for a comment. So, roads, for example, the road tally decreases. Dash, still not good enough, says RACV or RAA. It's you're putting in that element of comment into a headline or opinion. A colon, is often before an explanation or a list or a quote, like many people might see in text, you know, the programs include colon and then they're all listed underneath. But as we saw back with the Mercado headline, you can use colons in headlines quite well too. So, you know, tourism hurts profits, colon, wine industry. You know it's from them. Or the other way around, you can even do wine industry, tourism's hurting us. So, you know, colons work really, really well, and dashes. Okay, interviews is the next one. Just check. I don't think there's any questions. They haven't come up on the screen. Give us a yell if you do have a question about anything though. So interviews, they aren't scary, despite what many people might think. They are actually opportunities. So it would be remiss of me not to start with this up front. Now, if I had $1 for every farmer and business person in particular who hasn't dealt with the media much, but have, you know, had their one-off experience. There's a lot of stuff that people perhaps don't know, and I know a lot of journalists seem to think that it's taken for granted. So please don't be put off by this. I'm telling it so you know, and I will then go through ways that can help you work this to your advantage. So when you're talking to a reporter, everything is on the record, and this stumps a lot of people particularly, and even I get tricked by this myself because I do interviews for different types of things as well. So just keep that in the back of your mind. You can say to them that it's off the record, but you know, as soon as you say hi, when you pick up the phone, things are technically on the record. Okay, that doesn't mean every journalist operates like that. I didn't, but there are people that do, and you know, within their rights too. You can choose if you want to be recorded. You know, not all journalists record everything, print recorders. Some do, some take shorthand notes. But you can choose if you want to or if you not want to. Obviously, if you're doing radio, you sort of have to be, same as TV. So then you have to make your mind up whether you actually want to do it. But yeah, keep that in mind. And this is one that everybody seems ridiculously shocked by all the time. You don't have a right to see your story before it's printed, aired, whatever, okay? By engaging with the journalist, you've given them permission to tell your story. You don't have a right to see that. They can ring it, you know, they can run it by you if they like, but you know, they don't have to. You've had that engagement. So keep that one in mind. I know a lot of people do. I used to run quotes by people in news stories, obviously not politicians and stuff, but others that were super duper concerned. But in some cases, I just used to say no. There's all sorts of legal ramifications why that is. I'm not going to go into it, but if it's, say, an on-farm story or something with a lot of details, I used to check with farmers, and they used to appreciate it. And most of the time, they'd be like, "Oh, that's what we said," and I'm like, "Yeah, well, that's the idea." But keep that in mind, please. And the last one, the engagement with the journalist is giving them permission to tell your story. For example, I'm giving an example here because what you think your story might be could possibly be very different to how the journalist sees it. And keep in mind, most of the time when you're dealing with journalists in the media, they're there for information and entertainment. So they want people to read this stuff. So they've got to give them a reason. And business owners quite struggle with this quite a lot, is that people aren't actually necessarily entertained by your event or your product or what you have to say. So there has to be some sort of hook with it. The best example I can give is I interviewed a big apple and pear grower in New Zealand, and they obviously wanted to talk about their new range of products, which is fair enough, and they're right to. It was an opportunity to get it in a big magazine. However, the thing that resonated quite a lot with me, and I'm sure it did with the editors because it got a run, was the fact that they are pleased that they never went, pleased that they didn't get rid of their plastic on all their fruit and vegetables in the supermarkets, because this was at the height of the first wave of coronavirus. And they said that things that weren't wrapped in plastic, people weren't touching. So, you know, it was basically, you know, gone from this environmentally friendly push, consumer push, and they hadn't quite made that shift yet to make plastic meaning worthwhile for them. So, you know, that was a hook, that was the social angle. And then they mentioned their brands and stuff. But when I spoke to the guy after about it, he was just like, oh, I wouldn't have started like that. And I said, oh, really? And he said, yes, but you know, that's your right to start that way. And I can see why you think that that's a story. So please keep in mind that what you think is a story perhaps may not be how it comes back, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. Okay, so there is some good news coming, and there is plenty of good reasons to deal with the media and speak to journalists. Okay, this is one of the good things I like about it, but sometimes it can be tricky to stick to it because so many people are told not to talk about themselves. And I tell everybody when a journalist rings them up to stick with talking about yourself or your business or your event or your product or whatever it is you know. Okay, nobody knows you like you, and nobody can debate your experience either. So, like, within reason, you know, if you witness a car crash, there could be other people there, and you know, you might have only seen this portion of it, but I'm talking sort of on farm in your business. Like, you might not be the best person at doing something, but the fact is you're doing it, and you know, you can talk about how you're doing it. People can debate outside whether you've done it right, wrong, whatever, but no one's going to debate about how you've done it if you're honest to explaining it. Okay. Another thing is really important is to identify when someone's asking you for your opinion rather than what you know. Okay, I'm going to go through this in a sec, but this is where some people get tripped up when they're doing interviews and they get quite surprised by what ends up coming in the paper. The other thing, honesty and authenticity. We spoke about this last week in terms of social media. Authenticity, sorry, can't talk today, is key. Like, you know, people want to see a little bit about you. They don't, you know, they see enough polished and press conferencey type interviews with politicians and all that sort of stuff on TV. When they're interviewing your business or a farmer or anything like that, they want to see a little bit about them. And an example of authenticity I've recently used was there was some contractors in Tasmania, and been contractors for like 20 years, photo contractors, and during the interview they jokingly told me that they've got this patch of daffodils at the front of their farm, well, their farmhouse, sort of just before they get to the paddocks, and they gauge the season, and so whether it's going to be a hay season or a silage season off these daffodils and when they flower and how long they flower for and all that sort of stuff. And they laughed and they said, oh, people are going to think we're really stupid by that. And I'm like, well, and the wife is a trained horticulturalist, like she's done all those sorts of things. And I said, well, has it worked for you? And they said, yeah, every year it's been pretty much bang on. So I included that part in the story, and yes, you know, it gave people a smile, but it you know, it showed them, it gave a bit of an insight into their life, their business. You know, that little bit of authenticity really does make a difference. And the last point is you don't have to know everything, and that's okay. So a lot of people, I guess, get perhaps flustered if they get asked a question that they don't know the answer to. I know I still do that, and I teach people how to handle these things. So, you know, it's tough, but the worst thing you can possibly do is guess. So, you know, don't say that. So I've got a couple of suggestions here that you know, people can say, and we go into this a little bit more when dealing with tricky questions and stuff, but this is just off the bat straight up. You know, while I've got, you know, a journalist might say to you, while I've got you talking about the weather, what do you think about X, Y, and Z? So that could be fall in lamb prices, or, you know, increasing cattle prices, or, you know, availability of fertilizer or consumer trends or whatever. So keep in mind that, you know, and if you don't know about it, say, oh, I actually don't know. The other trick that I know a lot of people use is, you must be pretty shocked to see, insert whatever issue it is there. And if you say yes, then they'll be like, yeah, you are pretty shocked to see that, you know, lamb producer in Southeast is shocked to see, you know, was shocked to see blah, 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 blah. So keep that in mind. A lot of people use the words tell me about. So, you know, tell me about X, Y, and Z. Or the other one is, how would I go about finding out this, 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 and this? Okay, so keep in mind that, you know, these are questions that sort of digging phrases as such. I've got a disclaimer at the bottom because a lot of people can engage with the media really well and use these tools quite well to themselves. So if you want to do this, be my guest. It's really great because that really helps the media out and yeah, lets issues come to a surface. But if you want to play it safe, keep all these in mind. So in the interest of keeping things safe, I've got prepared a table for people to the difference between knowledge and opinion. So knowledge is your experience, what happened to you, and how it will work for you and your business. So I'm pretty sure you can, all those things on the left-hand side, you can answer for yourself. But once you start getting into opinion, it's when you're speculating as such on, what the weather could be like down the road at Joe Blow's place, or, what other people thought of the event. Sure, if they had told you, but don't guess, because, equally they could go and get the opinion of someone else who says, oh, no, I don't feel like that. Well, as the organizer, maybe you just guessed. It's the other things, hearsay and speculation. Speculation can be quite dangerous. So with that in mind, I've got a couple of phrases and sentences and stuff that people can use. My favorite is the one in yellow. I'm not aware of that, but what I can tell you is, now that line in itself brings it back to exactly what you want to talk about, which is what we're going to go into a second. But I guess it diverts the conversation. So you're on track going one way, you're like, oh, I don't know about that. But what I can tell you is back to what you want to talk about. The amount of times that gets used, it's great. It works a treat. It flows really well, particularly if you happen to be on the radio or TV. Flows fabulously. The one I've got in the thought bubble in the middle, put it in a thought bubble simply because you need to put a lot of thought into it before you use it. It's and about when you would use it. This hasn't happened to me, but if it was in that situation, okay, so it's asking for speculation. Again, treading on dangerous water can be used, but as I said, put a lot of thought into it, hence the thought bubble. The one down the bottom, so in your bottom left, so member one, and this can be used for those of you guys who perhaps run a member organization or have clients or anything like that, and perhaps something's been brought up as by way of a complaint or an issue or something, and you perhaps aren't even aware of that. So you just go into it. None of our members have said that to us. I know that there has been, there has been a problem with the cakes at the cake stall. And we've upgrading that for our members, or we've addressed that or whatever. So it takes it from something that's been complained to a way you have dealt with an issue as part of your organisation and what the result has been, which you would hope would be positive if you're highlighting it. So it's just a way to change conversations around for people that are a bit nervous about that. Up in the corner, I've highlighted, and the idea of putting "you've asked me to speculate" in there rams home the fact that I am speculating. I don't know off the top of my head what that would mean. So you can either say I don't want to answer, or I could guess about 20% of my tractors are unsafe, or whatever it is you're using. So yeah, they're just a few lines that people might want to be able to use. So yeah. I think it's the old saying, by failing to prepare, you're preparing to fail. Like everything in life, I guess preparation is the key, but don't prepare for specific answers. As the Dawson's Creek meme guy says on that, if you prepare for specific, you get one out of the box that you hadn't prepared for, sometimes it can throw you. So, preparation helps for everything from, your own peace of mind, gets the interview over and done with quickly, avoids having to come back quite often. And preparation ensures accurate answers. I couldn't tell you how many times I've done interviews with farmers who are like, yeah, I actually don't know what my, key indicator of production or profitability is. yeah, I don't know, hang on, I'll have to go and check. And, 20 minutes later, they come back from the office with a file. So they're just little tips and tricks that help. Okay. Say you get a phone call. Okay, so this is the lay of the land, basically. You get a phone call from someone wanting to talk to you for a newspaper, radio, possibly TV, whatever. I always say to everybody to get the details. So you want to know who the reporter is. It's basically what's going on. What's their publication. Why are they contacting you? This is a big one because it plays into the role of context. So we're talking about, say you're a business owner and at the moment someone might call you and be like, hey, just wondering if I can have a chat to you about JobKeeper with coronavirus or whatever. So, okay, yep, that radio, why are you contacting me? They could be like, because we found you on white pages online, someone recommended you, whatever. That way it gives you a bit of a context. It also, gets a bit of breathing space to think about perhaps answers while you're preparing. What would you like to know? Okay, because sometimes you're not in a position to answer the questions of the people that are ringing up. So yeah, that way you know whether you can or you can't, or whether you have to prepare for it. How will the interview be conducted? This is most important for those who are doing radio. But occasionally, I guess it determines whether someone's going to come out to your farm or whether they're going to do it over the phone. But when it comes to radio, you want to know whether you're going to be live. So if they're going to say, we'll ring you back and you'll be live or whatever, or it'll be a pre-recorded. So these are questions to ask. And if necessary, and you have to delay or whatever, when's the deadline? And all journalists will say now or as soon as possible. With all this in mind though, guys, you still have control. Oops, wrong way. Sorry. Okay. I've popped this picture of the tractor up here because I'm going to share with you quickly a story about a agricultural leader who got a phone call from a journalist. He had no idea what they were talking about. It was an issue that broke that morning quite early. He hadn't been inside. He hadn't checked his phone. He was actually on his farm working, which happens quite a lot. And he said to me, I don't know. And I said, all right, I'm going to take my journalist hat off and I'm going to tell you to tell me that you are down the paddock on the tractor, because he was. You have very poor service. Can I give you a call back in 30 to 40 minutes when I get back to the house with better reception? I said, that way you're going to have enough time to review your notes, call your staff, whatever's required, and get yourself across the issue. Okay. So in that respect, a lot of people still have control, and that can work, I'm driving, because they'll never record a radio interview while driving because the audio is terrible. And you can actually say, not right now, however, I can talk to you in a moment. But keep in mind, guys, that if you want the publicity, you've got to work with the journo. So if you're promoting an event or something, you make the time. Perhaps you pull over and you have that chat right then and there, make it as easy as possible for a reporter or whoever's collating the material. Okay, so this is, a playing by ear situation. The other thing is, you can call back, you can schedule time. Sometimes you can get some stuff emailed to you. I don't like that as a reporter. However, a lot of farmers feel more comfortable if you email them questions. However, if it's right on deadline, sometimes that's not important. So if you ever feel like you're a bit flustered or whatever, keep the tractor story in mind. You can always pull that one and use that, and, insert tractor for any other piece of machinery or whatever else you happen to be doing. Okay, another point to preparation. And this is all back to the first class, guys. This is why we started where we started. It's the same. An interview is basically telling a story rather than writing it or communicating it on social media. So why have you agreed to do it? What do you want to communicate? What do you want the audience to do? So they want to attend an event, put more fertilizer on, plant trees, go vegan, whatever it is. Chuck in your credibility if you can. You might be selling irrigation pipes, for example, and you're talking about irrigation in hot weather or whatever it is, and you say, well, I've been doing this for 20 years. So in my experience, X, Y, and Z. So, you're getting your credibility in there. Have these details at hand. But please don't run off a script. Now, the 3 points is something I really, really want to share with you. It was something that was taught to me by a radio producer, and I have never forgotten it, and I use it all the time. Okay, it helps clarify your thoughts. If you've got 3 points, and those 3 points are the ones that if you got nothing else out of that interview, you made those 3 points, I would say it's a success. So deciding those 3 points is pretty much the hardest bit. However, I would recommend people go back to their purpose, their action, and their credibility as to, you know, frame their 3 points. When you're doing it, have a pen, because sometimes you can jot down some stuff. And your 3 points, I always tell everybody, write it at the top of your notebook or the top of your piece of paper. And if you can, write it in a different color pen. I used to do that all the time when I did radio, just because they stood out, okay? They help keep you on track. Yes, you can still have your other notes underneath it and all that sort of stuff, but if you're flicking back between pieces of paper and you're doing a live interview or a radio interview anyway, that's not a good look. It sounds really stunted and confused. Your 3 points are your key. Obviously, 3 points is helpful if you're doing a print interview, but it's not as important because your voice isn't being recorded. However, the 3 points works really well because you know you're definitely getting your point across, exactly what you want to communicate. And for some of you guys who are farmers and you're perhaps even doing what they call an on-farm story, your 3 points could simply be, and I encourage all farmers to do this, an example of good operation of agriculture in Australia. Now, right back to the start, we talked about the fact that agriculture has a responsibility to communicate to a broader audience. So even if one of your points is to show best practice or show, you know, quality in production or whatever it is, like they're simple points, but, you know, you're getting a platform to tell your story. Make sure you do it really well if you can. Okay, this is, I know I'm harping on about this, but if anybody happens to go on telly or the radio, please don't read your notes. They know you're reading from a script. And it's the same with making a presentation and all those sorts of things. People can tell when you're reading. You've got your 3 points, you've done your preparation, you have the knowledge. Your notes are there if it really goes pear-shaped, but please don't read directly off your script. It's really super duper obvious, and it kills any sort of authenticity that you might have coming. Okay, again, I'm going to stress this, but I don't know. All right, please don't guess. Don't make anything up. Nobody knows everything. And if you thought you did, you're pretty deluded pretty much. I've got a couple of suggestions there about what you can say. However, I just want to give a bit of an example about what happens when you guess. So whether it be the weight of your cattle or your lambs or whatever, if you put a bit of mayo on it, extend it a bit, if the journalist doesn't pick it up, your peers will, okay? And they'll question it all the time. So if you don't know, don't say, and just don't guess, okay? So open yourself up for, you know, I guess criticism in want of a better term. All right, I've got a cuppa up here because we've reached the middle section. But if anybody has any questions, in the chat box, I can address them now. I've had a cuppa before we go into the second part of the presentation.
I can't see any questions there at the moment, Simone. Everybody, I might just ask you to unmute yourself if you have got a question, and we'll just give you a couple of seconds while you're doing that. And turn on your video if you like.
All good today, excellent. Okay, cool. But feel free to yell out if you do want to know anything or anything extra.
Thanks, everybody. So 10 minutes. It is 20 past 11 here. What's that? 10 to 11 everywhere else. Oh, well, not everywhere else because, Bonnie, you're very far west. So 10 minutes, everybody. And we'll see you back here. Grab a cuppa and do whatever else you need to do. Put some wood on the fire. It's cold out there. We'll see you in 10.
All right, everyone see my screen?
We've got your presenter view again.
Oh. One day I'll get it right.
We'll get it right eventually. That's better.
I don't get it right for any other meeting, so I am just hopeless outside of this. All right, guys. Hope everybody's back on board. Had a nice cuppa and a nice drink. We're going to go into what? Okay, so this section is going to be talking about building relationships and targeting media. I know I've stressed this in other sessions, but research is super duper important when you're targeting media or even working out who you want to deal with going forward. I've got the bubbles there. I'm not going to read them out. However, I want to stress a couple of things that with local, a lot of people perhaps sometimes don't think outside the square when it comes to where they can place their event advertisements or newsletter articles or whatever it is. Like local radio stations have lots of segments. There's local council websites sometimes have options to put events up there. So there's all sorts of different places that it can be placed, but keep in mind you need to make sure that the people you want to attract to your event or to your product or whatever is looking at those sorts of things. So it's back to that research bubble, which is in the middle. Specialist industry, think outside the square. So I'm not going to pretend I know a lot about wine, but I'm sure there's a lot of different wine publications and blogs and things like that, for example. What do your customers read? What's credible? All that sort of stuff. Where do you want to place? What do you want to deal with? Is it worth investing time in meeting up with the people who perhaps report in this space on your industry? So, it's up to you guys then to think about that. But, you have to make those decisions, and often they come from your customers. I keep stressing that, but ask them what they read, what they listen to, what they watch, that sort of thing. I've got national down the bottom and I've got question marks written over that. I guess if this is an issue you want to highlight, is this happening to people outside of just my area? Okay. When I worked at the ABC, they used to have this phrase that was saying take the local national. Okay, it was to make it appealing. It was to get a spotlight on different regions. I think agriculture has a really good opportunity to take advantage of this sort of approach to doing media. But keep in mind that, it has to be worth it. So, there's no point advertising nationally or trying to even get a media release in a huge paper, for example, about quite a localized event or something. But, if there had been a farmer who had some sort of really good result with a new type of, oat and hay or, crop or whatever it is that, it could change something. It has consumer, for example, ramifications. They're the sorts of things that you can think about, making those phone calls to perhaps those bigger papers or emailing or whatever it is. But so, research. I can't stress. And this is where databases play a big role, which I'll talk about in a second. But here are some other considerations. When you're dealing with the media, and to make sure you get off on the right foot, timing is the first one I want to stress. Don't put a media release out on a Wednesday for a newspaper that comes out on a Wednesday. Yes, there's the website. They can put it up there. They can share it on their social media or all that sort of thing. But if you want it in print on a Wednesday, by the next Wednesday, it's old news. So there's the likelihood of getting it in print in that paper that you want is very, very small. Deadlines. This is one of my favorite, and now I write for specialist magazines, people have even less of an idea of how this works. So your deadline might be, Monday at midday, just for example, okay? That doesn't mean that you can send in your media release at 11:55 on Monday and expect it to get into a newspaper. Same with radio, although radio, you know, has that, you know, more, I guess, live element to it. There is time that people need to ring them to check, you know, perhaps organize photos, even layout. Like, it looks quite simple, but anybody who's tried to lay out stuff and make it look good, it's quite time consuming. So keep in mind when you're sending it so that there's enough time for people to see it, make the calls, do all those things that are necessary. Availability. This is one of my big bugbears when I was a journalist, and it still is now. If you're going to put out a press release, or you're going to put out, you know, a social media link, but perhaps someone's going to call about, you know, it might be provocative, or it might be just super duper interesting, you've got no idea, please be available to take the call. So many times I've seen media releases as journalists, I thought, oh, that's interesting, I'll call the media person at the bottom, or the person whose contact details are at the bottom of a media release, only to be told that the person who can be quoted from the organisation is in meetings all day. Please, 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 please don't do that. You need to be available to chat to your media, basically. And, you know, that's not all day, but, you know, keep that in mind when you're doing what you're doing, that you may be getting phone calls, and you could be getting phone calls up for the next week. I'm not saying, you know, scrub your whole week out or anything out, but just keep that in mind that, you know, you did send media out, so you should hopefully get media if it's good. The other one is opportunity. Now, I work with a lot of clients who play in this space. You can if you want, but it takes quite a lot more investment of time, research, and that sort of stuff. So what I mean by opportunity is, say you see a story in a paper about the need for something that you produce, for example. You can seize this opportunity and be like, oh, hey, here's a press release on, you know, here's a bit of information, you know, said journo, I saw this story in the paper and we produced this, happy to chat, here's my number, blah, 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 here's a couple of pictures. Opportunity works like that. It could also be, if your example, like a member organisation, you do policy or something like that, something that's printed in the paper you perhaps don't agree with, or you are like, that's damn wrong, or you hear on the radio or whatever, you're offering your other side of the story. Like I said, this takes quite a lot more of an investment. However, it plays to the relevance, the authority, the credibility, all the sorts of stuff we talked about at the start. So if you can do this, there's quite a lot of opportunities to get media by just keeping an ear out, an eye out, and seizing those opportunities. Which brings me to how you distribute things. Okay, I've decided to start with this one, which is the send it to everyone, simply because this is the most common approach that everybody does to media. And by I mean everybody, I mean all those who are relevant to what you're doing. Like, I know this is an extreme example, but if you're having a crop walk, don't send it to Country Style magazine. They're not interested in that. So don't send it to everyone. When I say everybody, but you know, broad brush out there. Okay, pros and cons of everything. Generally, you know, particularly in smaller papers and those sorts of things, it'll get some sort of run. But the con of that is that it's everywhere. And if you've got like a really good story about, say, a new product, or something that's happening, or whatever, like you might only get a little run, and it's so you got to weigh it up, I guess. It's also, I've got written down there, no favorites, because I'm going to talk you through, although it's probably not relevant for what you do, but I'm going to let you know what's happening the other way to approach doing media. But it shows that if you're sending it out to everybody, you're not favoring any media outlet or anything like that. You know, you're all the same. And the best thing for this is anything that's already public. So I've got all the examples listed down there. I'm not going to read them all out, but you know, there's nothing, I guess, necessarily special about it or anything like that. You can go to a website and find out information about it. It's just going, hey, look over here. We've done this, and you might find it interesting. So this is probably the approach that most people will take to everybody that's relevant. At the bottom here, I have written overwhelming amount of media releases. Now, there are some agricultural organisations, and I'm not naming names, who put a media release out if someone sneezes. It's a bit of an extreme example, but the reality is, say something when it's worth saying, because otherwise you get the action. And so many journalists tell me this, and I always keep it in mind when I do media for different businesses, is they literally go and they search the media organisation in their email and then press delete. Because if you've sent out too much stuff that's not newsy, not relevant, not useful, nothing like that, it sort of dilutes the impact of anything else you're going to send out. So keep in mind, is it worth sending out to everybody? Is it quality? Is it interesting? All those sorts of things before you send out. Because sometimes it might not be a media release. Sometimes it could actually just be, well, not just be, that makes it sound irrelevant, and that's not true, but it could be, you know, a newsletter article, or it could be a social media post or something like that. It doesn't necessarily need to be a media release flagged going, look at me to the journalists. This is the other side of media management, and I'll just briefly touch on it because it takes a lot of planning and a lot of consideration. This is very popular for big business and government. And you might hear people talk about, I got the drop from X, Y, and Z. Governments do it quite a lot, so they might favour one media outlet over another by giving them an exclusive of a really large story. The benefits of this is that it's exclusive, so they get the prominence. Like, often you'll get the front page of a big news outlet because they've got the drop, it's a really big story, all that sort of stuff. It works in advertising, so the corporate sector, so those who have businesses and that sort of thing, that say you're selling a product or whatever, you might have a really good story, it goes alongside an ad, and for readers of that magazine or, you know, listeners to that podcast, I've heard that happen quite a lot, which is a whole new area. You get a 10% discount on your next order of X, Y, and Z. So, you know, you can target media for a commercial gain as well. And obviously, when I said big business, I mean, you know, if they have a big announcement to make or something that's going to affect everybody, you know, so many times I've seen, you know, X, Y, and Z companies going to invest $20 million in regional South Australia or regional Victoria or whatever it is. They'll give a drop to a paper that they deem is going to spread their message far and wide and be seen to be quite important. So there's a lot of research that goes in that. The cons are that it backfires big time. So, if your story has a hole in it, they will find it because they have been given it and they've been given the opportunity to investigate it. So you need to be really careful. And it seemed to be playing favourites too. And you'll hear a lot of discussion with that, with governments and things like that, what outlets they like better and what ones they've put on the no list. That happens quite a lot. I've put in the when you need a favour. Government's big business plays this quite a lot. So, you know, there's a lot of planning and stuff involved in that. You do get a big run, but it's something that needs to be really super considered before you do it. Okay, database management. I'm not lying. It is a lot of work to keep all your media contacts up to date because media changes a lot. A lot of the jobs aren't stable full-time. Also, there's shifts and those sorts of things. So there are paid media databases and people that keep on top of this all the time. MediaNet is one of them. They distribute media releases. I'm not sure if anybody's seen them. And they keep in contact with journalists by sending them emails and asking them to update their information. I get them quite a lot now. Just, you know, we've noticed you've gone from X to Y, is your details still? So they keep everybody's details, right? You have to pay. I have no idea how much it costs to access this sort of stuff. I've got a couple of clients that use that and a couple that are like, no, we want to keep our own database and keep on top of that. So if you want your own database and you're only doing a local media or state media or whatever, it's important to keep it updated. Excel is your friend, as I've written there. It's also important to have notes next to the people you send it to, such as, you know, X, Y, and Z, you know, this media outlet's deadline, you know, when they're doing, you know, whether they need pictures, what it was like last time you dealt with them. If someone rings you up, keep their number and email. They're obviously interested in your industry. Like, they might want to hear from you again. So many times, I've done work with businesses who they're basically saying, hey, pick me, pick me, pick me. I'm interested in you. Like, you've got their number, you've got their email, you've got their name. Like, that's how you build your database, and that's how you target your stuff. So keep that in mind. And for those who deal with local papers, sometimes, and I know this sounds really old school, but I still do it now to update stuff. I'll go through and I'll look at who's writing stuff from the bylines. And you notice that it changes. Social media is an absolutely fabulous way to stalk people. It is very time consuming though, but it's a way to get information. Also on your Excel spreadsheet, put their social media handles, anything like that as well. If I do that just so that I know I can look at what they've been writing about and that sort of stuff. It works as well too. So if you're a specialist industry and you know there's a specialist reporter or a specialist magazine or whatever, you can keep a watch of their social media, what they're talking about, what they're commenting on, what's going in the papers, the media, by any stretch of the imagination. And you can offer them something. That's back to the couple of slides before where you've got your opportunity. Like, you know, you're becoming relevant, you're seizing that, you know, that opportunity. If you keep your database up to date, you can do all those sorts of things. Also, it helps when you're sending media releases out because you don't get all the return emails if they're up to date. Because sometimes you can get heaps and heaps and heaps of them, and I'm sure people who send media releases out will know about that. Media relationships. So I put an angel picture here just because when people help you out at the last minute, you're under pressure, you've got to get stories done, you've got to get something out. Sometimes you're like, oh, they're just angels. They really, really, really have been great. The one that I have bolded here is the one that I would say hands down everybody struggles with in media. And, you know, yes, you can have, you know, journalists who've been in the business for a really long time have, you know, umpteen lists of black books with contacts and that sort of stuff. But it goes back to what we spoke about at the start, that faces sell papers. So if you have an issue and you can put a face and an example, a real life example to it, it all of a sudden makes that issue more newsworthy and more relatable. So in the world of print papers, they call it a pick yarn. So you might, if you do talk to journalists, they'll say, oh, we're looking for a picture story or a pick yarn to go with it. It's basically, you've got your issue, you've got your news story, you've got all your statistics, all that sort of stuff. Here is a farmer, here is a business owner, here is a whatever who's living that experience. So an example I can say is, you know, everybody opens the ag papers up and they see the weather stories or your dry conditions or whatever, and the main story goes through everything that's, you know, rainfall, pricing is related to that, all that sort of stuff. And then underneath or adjacent to it, you have a picture of an individual person and you have a little bit about their story. So that's the example that I'm talking about. If you're in a position where you have relationships with media and you have clients, for example, who are happy to talk to the media, or you can help them talk to the media, or you have members or anything like that, they can be your example for a story. Now, that story that they're the example for might not be a blatant plug of your product. Actually, I'm going to say it'll never be a blatant plug for your product because it's not a news story. However, getting them in there, and they might say, for example, oh, my consultant, blah, 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 recommended I use this. That's why, you know, I've got a better crop with the weather, or my I'm irrigating this X, Y, and Z because I use this product, or you know, my restaurant buys this sort of wine, or whatever it is. Like, it's those subtle little things, but it's getting your clients, your members, your customers out there in the public. And it's providing an example, which is exactly what the media needs and really sometimes struggles to genuinely get. So the other ones I've got there, equally as important, but you know, not necessarily as hard to do. So, you know, when someone, you know, someone's at your event, for example, covering, you know, what do you need and what do you want? Is there anything extra we can give you? Like, field days are a classic. Often, particularly radio reporters, really short deadlines, especially those filing for midday country bulletins and things like that. If you're an organizer, it's sometimes it's no skin off your nose to just go, hey, how you going? I'm such and such. What exactly here would you like? Would you need a couple of farmers to speak to? Do you need a couple of agronomists? Whatever it is. Is there anything we can send you? Do you have an email? Would you like some extra information about today? Or, you know, we've got some great pictures we took when it wasn't raining, for example, if it happens to be raining or whatever it is, we can send them through. You know, they might not get used, but you're giving them information, and, you know, it could be a social media post about your event later on. It could be one from the personal journalist's account too, that, you know, oh, I was out at X, Y, and Z day and here's a picture or whatever. Like, you never know where it could lead. The other thing is, people that host events sometimes don't understand how quickly it needs to be, a report on whatever happened needs to be turned around for media. So I've put in here promptly. So, you know, if there's question about, I don't know, follow-up questions, basically, they sort of need to be followed up that day. You know, how many numbers were there, all those sorts of things. So, you know, quickly. This works a lot with agricultural journalists and state-based journalists. With COVID restrictions and the condensing of the media, I'm not sure how relevant this will be going forward. But I know for a fact, and with all my colleagues over the years, that organisations or, you know, farmers or anything like that, businesses are like, oh, when are you next down this way? You know, we've got X, Y, and Z, this happening and that happening, because you want to kill, as a reporter, in the interest of time and money, I guess, as such, you need to kill as many birds as one stone in one day. So, you know, if you happen to have a client who's doing a really good job with something that might be worth highlighting, and you're like, well, actually, well, this is before they come down. Oh, we've also got someone else who's doing X, Y, and Z, or you might want to go and have a look there. So, you know, it's making the most of their trips. And the one I've got at the bottom here is relevant for basically getting your name out there and just helping that relationship. Often media in particular need comments on things that are happening as they're doing. Often at last minutes, you might get a phone call. I know weather events are a big one. So, you know, if you're in their phone, they might give you a ring, all that sort of stuff. It's another opportunity to get your name out there. If you are a consultant, or you are a business, or you service the, you know, agricultural industry, or you service customers, you know, if you're seen to be, you know, commenting on what it means, you know, what the downturn in the economy means for, you know, wine sale. I keep using wine as an example, but wine sales, or what it's like, you know, you're at the sale yards the other day. What's the mood like? All that sort of stuff, you know, blah, blah, blah. Consultant, you know, was at the Narracott yards the other day and said X, Y, and Z, you know, they saw this. Remember, you're talking about what you saw, what you experienced. But I guess it's providing the media a helping hand on the spot, if you feel comfortable with that. And it's also an opportunity to get out and about, your name out and about, sorry. All right, I'm going to briefly touch on videos, just quickly. Now, there are plenty of different opportunities to use videos, but I choose to use them mostly for the situations listed there. Q&A, it can be a little bit tricky because you can't often hear the question with a video. However, You can cut the question out, and I'm going to go through software and stuff, or you can put the question as subtitles at the bottom. Also going to talk about that in a second too. But Q&A interviews, really good, simple way to get a short video up on a website, on a social media post, answering a couple of questions. Really good, easy way to do video. How to, something if it's, you know, if it's new or it needs to be put together, or it's, you know, no one, you know, step-by-step instructions. Keep in mind that we want video short. So if, you know, it's a really long how-to video, cut it into different sections, how to do the first bit, the second bit, whatever. And keep it on the actual thing. You don't need a, you know, if it's a how-to video, you don't need the person in it. You need to be able to see clearly what's happening. Behind the scenes, like if, you know, you're getting ready, so you're about to host an event, or, you know, it's behind the scenes of getting this product launched, or, you know, that sort of thing. Like, you know, that a behind the scenes video gives your audience or your customers or whatever it is that little bit more of an insight. Again, keep them short. And the check it out is basically, as we discussed the other week about videos on social media, anything new. If you've never seen it before, hey, have a look at this. We have this, my business, my company, whatever it is, has access to this amazing new technology, or, you know, I've found this, and because I'm relevant and I'm onto it in my industry, I can share with you this new stuff. Or it could even be, check out this amazing example of something basic. So, you know, you could be on farm. Check it out works really well there. And someone could have a ripping crop, or, you know, really good lambs or whatever it is. And, you know, check this out. This is one of my clients doing this. Short, sharp, shiny. Yep. Don't they look great? Okay, I can't stress to you enough that videos have to be short, sharp, and shiny. I say to people 15 seconds, 45 seconds maximum, because keep in mind, not everyone has time or they want to watch it. And also, if you've got a video and you want more information about it, stick your video up on your social media or on your website or whatever it is, and then put that link in there to go to find out more information on it. I can't stress to you enough the importance of the links. As we talked about in the social media section, if you want to go longer, you know, perhaps it's an opportunity to go live, or if it is a longer, more complicated topic or something like that, break it up. Yep. Okay, like pictures, the background is really important with videos. You don't want to cut people off or things off or anything like that. But unlike pictures, there's two things you need to consider. Wind, I've put an exclamation mark there because I can't stress the importance of getting out of the wind. There is nothing worse than a video in the middle of a paddock and all you can hear is the wind. And wind is picked up all the time and quite often forgotten. And keep in mind that you guys will most likely be using phones. Unlike actual recording equipment, it's not as hard to on a phone it's harder to muffle the wind than it is if you had a radio microphone or something like that. With a radio microphone, they actually have the fluffy covers to go over the top. But, you know, if you're out in the field, I just used to always just wrap my scarf around it or a jumper or something like that. But, you know, a phone, you don't have that same option to cut the wind noise, and wind is so distracting in a video. So get behind that tractor, or get behind, I've put the picture up there of the bale of hay. That was a shockingly windy day when I did that really short video. We just went into the hay shed, and despite the fact that the story wasn't about the hay, it was actually about his calves and rearing his calves and that sort of stuff. The hay offered a plain background, so there was no distractions in the video. No one could look at anything else other than what he was saying. But most importantly, they could hear what he was saying because there was no wind. I've got noise written there because sometimes you ideally don't want background noise, but if there happens to be background noise in a video, please explain it. Like I said the other week with going live, everything that happens, you need to explain to your listener or viewer or whatever it is. And, you know, I did a video before this COVID locked down, just a short one for social media, and it was at a seed shed. And we're doing it. It was going really great. Everything like that. It was the best cut we'd done. And then a truck started backing into the other end of it. So you're hearing that beep, beep, beep. And for the sake of not having to do it again, because we were short of time, I just said in the video, I said, oh, wow. I said, you know, it's all action stations here. Clearly it's autumn planting time. So we're getting a truck backing in there, delivering some more. So, you know, if you can explain away your noise, do, but ideally you just probably wouldn't have it in there. Okay, just a couple of little tips, which probably are self-explanatory, but it's easier to think about doing them than sometimes it is to actually do them. Blue tack is your friend if you're inside with a video, especially if you have to film yourself. I've blue tacked my phone or taped it to all sorts of different things to talk. If you're fancy enough to be using like an SLR camera or something and you have a tripod, that's really good. Steady is the key. Jerking, shaking, all that sort of stuff. It's really, really noticeable in videos, particularly if they're short videos, because that's all people can remember. And yeah, if you're walking along in a crowd, for example, and you know there's going to be movement of the video or of the phone as you're doing it, say, hey, I'm walking along in the crowd, I'm walking through this paddock, and look at all the people here. Those people know why there's all this movement happening. But if you're doing a one-on-one interview with someone and there shouldn't be movement and there's movement, then you need to think about where you're going to pop your phone for that recording. The other one is I've put down the bottom, sorry, don't change the view, landscape or vertical. So if you're holding your phone this way, don't go that way, or vice versa. Just keep it the one, makes it easy to follow. Subtitles with videos. I didn't understand the power of subtitles with videos until I worked with a big advertising agency on a job. And now I'm like all about subtitles. It doesn't have to be necessarily what's happening and what's being said. It can be like who the person is, where they are, and it can also be just like someone's brand, like their logo in the corner of the video. So, you know, it's there all the time. But if you put, say, you know, the name of the person and where they are, you know, like we had in the one before, it takes out valuable seconds out of your video. So it makes it that short, sharp, shiny thing, because you've got that information down the bottom. So now you know who that person is, you know where they farm or where they operate or whatever it is. You're just watching their answers or what's going on. Also, other people use subtitles too, because keep in mind that people watching videos aren't always watching videos in a position where they can have the noise on. You know, they might be in a room with other people or in a car or whatever like that. So it's a good way to people to engage with you when they perhaps can't. That's why I put the headphones on there. You know, they might not have the headphones, but they might want to watch the video. Well, they can watch what's being said on mute. So subtitles are worth the time and investment, even if they're just simple little ones with the name and the location. Software. As I said at the start, I'm probably not the best person to recommend software, because I simply use what clients ask me to. And for my entire career, I've used the stuff that we've been allocated for newspapers and stuff which you can't get in general run-of-the-mill. You can't go and buy the stuff the ABC uses or the Weekly Times uses. But in recent years, I've had a lot of play with InDesign for some of the magazines that I do. I quite like it because the page layout's super easy. They have templates, so you don't have to create them yourself. I find everything easy to drop and to find, and it's just quite intuitive. Premiere Pro, I'm only new to using this, and it saved my bacon on Friday before a virtual farm walk. You're able to separate the audio from the video, so you can still had wind in it. We couldn't do anything about that. We're able to increase the level of of the sound in the video, and I like it because you can drag and drop. So if you cut out a bit, you can drag it and put it somewhere else. Like, it seems quite intuitive in that respect. So I've just been using those programs mostly. On the road, and if I need something done really quickly or whatever, I have an iPhone, so I use iMovie. Again, it's drag and drop. It's really quite easy to use. It works for everything. You can do, you can put credits at the end, you can do effects, you can put music over the top of it. It's quite easy to use, and it's good when you don't, you're in the car, for example. I do quite a lot of stuff like that. So if you happen to have an iPhone, I can recommend that. Newsletter templates. I use what clients use because we're using their database, and most of them use MailChimp, which I was quite surprised about because to be honest, I didn't know what people would use. Most of them use the free one too. I find the free one a tad bit clunky, but I don't know what the paid one is like to compare it to. But if I was creating something, I've used Google, the Google Suite, to create newsletters too, just for examples of things for people to show. But if anyone else has any examples or software they use for news templates they want to share, I'll be more than happy to hear about them. But these are just my experiences. Like, MailChimp does the job, but it can be a bit clunky when you're using the free edition. The Microsoft suite of products, you can also have templates for newsletters and things like that as well, if you happen to have those on your computer. All right, running way ahead of time today. We have got to the end. So in wrapping up, I've put a few points here that I hope we get through all this, in the importance of headlines, uses of numbers, colons, dash, and certain words. Like, I can't stress, they also help shorten your headlines. And remember, short is good. Please don't be scared about interviews. They're not scary. They're really good opportunities. But if you're prepared and you know what, you know where you stand, and you know perhaps the rules and the way it goes around that, it makes it so much easier to handle. With your message, the 3 points, I love that. I use that all the time when I do interviews. And it's really good to make sure, and I can't stress this enough, that you don't sway into opinion or speculation, because you've got your 3 points there at the top. I know a few years back I did an interview about dairy industry and Murray Goldman going through court, the big was a cooperative dairy company. And during the interview, and this was while it was at court, a lot of people kept saying to me, the interviewer kept saying to me, but don't you think this money needs to go to farmers? It should go to farmers. Farmers deserve it, all this sort of stuff. Well, that's stating away from the facts. I was there to talk about what had happened in court and what had happened prior to getting to court. And yeah, of course, I would like to see farmers end up with more money, but then that's swaying into opinion, and there's all sorts of trouble there. So I had my 3 points at the top, and I said, well, look, I can't actually comment on that. I was there as a reporter, as an independent observer, but what I can tell you is X, Y, and Z. So then it keeps it on track. Assistance to target media, so understanding the positive, negatives, when to use targeted media, the pros and cons, all that sort of stuff. Tips to building relationships with media. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys already have them. I know that some of you do, and that's great. But there's just those few ideas, I guess, that I hope that I perhaps have given you a bit of an idea of how you can help improve your relationship with them, and maybe give them some stuff to make their life easier. And then by way they help your business or event or whatever like that. And I know we went over videos really quickly, but people do tend to spend a lot more time on videos than perhaps what's necessary. They are short, sharp, shiny things. They are to be put onto social media. Generally, if you're going to do a production or anything like that, I recommend you get a professional in, because actually shooting video itself is a craft, just like I talked about photography. and to some extent writing if you've got huge, big jobs to do. But yeah, but if you're just doing social media things, don't overthink it with video, point and shoot, make sure you don't get your noise. And the software suggestions there. So I want to thank everybody for bearing with me over the Zoom for the 3 sessions. Especially want to thank Nicollet Farm Management and the Land Care for the support. Obviously, these sessions are very different in real life, and we do a lot more, I guess, tasks during the day when we run them. But thank you for being my first students, I guess, via Zoom. I really appreciate it. So feel free to give me a yell if you have any questions in the future or whatever. But if anybody has any questions now, happy to answer them. Oh, we got one in the chat. Sorry, I didn't even notice that. Oh, lots of good tips, thanks. Yeah, so if anyone has anything they want clarification on, even if it's stuff from the other sessions, yeah, give us a yell.
Thanks, Simone. I might just get everybody to turn your cameras on and unmute yourselves, please. It'll be good to see your faces. We've all been in the dark a bit this session. I thought there was some great stuff in there, Simone, especially about, you know, working with the media and, you know, maintaining the databases and radio interviews and that sort of thing. So I hope it's been really helpful for you guys who are listening in as well. Somebody, I can hear your radio on in the background. Can I get you to put yourself on mute, please? Unless you're going to ask a question. No questions from anybody? Comments? Tim?
Yeah, I've just got a question, I guess, following up on a few of your points there about presentation and so forth for media. I had an example earlier this month where one of my photographs has been used in an exceedingly unfavourable light across Australian media. Any tips and so forth for basically misuse of photos and content, I suppose, that you've given permission for journalists to use?
Wow. Oh, hang on. I think can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry that happened, and I'd like to say that that's unusual, but I know that that's not the case. So you sent it to go with, just so I can get some clarity, you sent it to go with, say, something you sent into the media, was it, specifically?
No, the film crews and media were at the border, the South Australian border, when I was there.
Oh, sorry.
And took some photos and did a little interview and such, which I gave my permission for. It was when ADF was deployed to the borders, and they were just asking what I thought of that, which was fine.
Yeah.
Subsequently, a number of weeks later, one of the photographs that was taken was reused in a different story relating to a person being charged over basically completely the wrong thing. And
are you identifiable in it?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is the sort of stuff that I used to teach cadets, and you go through at university, and when you do an interview to get a job as a journalist, they ask you about. So you're not allowed to do that. Yes, if you knew you were getting your photo taken, you've given permission to get your photo taken. However, that's for that situation. And particularly if it's used, like you said, for someone who's been charged for something, that's completely separate, and you don't want to be identified by that. So what I'd be doing is I would be at first place contacting the media organisation, give me a ring, follow up with an email. After that, you know, there are the press council, those sorts of things. But, you know, that's you're not... If you get your photo taken and it's used for the same sort of thing again, so say you get your photo taken at a field day and it's used to promote other field days, or an example of, you know, a news story where less, less people are going to field days, rah, 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 and there's a picture there. That's. But the fact is that you're linked to, in what case seems to be an alleged crime. But that's completely not. Yeah, it's not really supposed to happen.
Well, it's not an alleged crime. It's actually the two people in question were actually charged. They had jail sentence.
Oh, right. Well, yeah. Okay, but still, it's
so it's. I'll just read it out to you because it's really important, I think, to understand where some of this stuff actually goes. So the title on the news, this is from the 3rd of August. The title on the piece was "Dog Lover Mohammed Husseini handed suspended sentence after flouting SA border restrictions to rescue pooch." So then it's got directly under that is a photograph of me in my ute, completely identifiable, distinctive ute, business name, product name, phone number, website, the whole bit on the ute. And the caption on the photo is, "A man and a woman crossed the South Australian border at Broken Hill, New South Wales. After being turned away at Pinaroo, Victoria, they'll be required to leave the state immediately."
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry that happened, but that you actually need to contact the media organisation. And
yeah, that in itself took nearly an hour to actually track down the reporter who wrote that article.
Yeah.
Because of how media sharing happens in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did finally get onto her, she didn't actually even put the photograph in the story. That's done by a photo desk in New South Wales.
And that happens quite a lot. So you register your complaint with them, and they, did they change it? Do you know if they changed it?
Yeah, they did.
They did.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I rang her, basically the process went, I obviously questioned the use of the photo.
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh no, that's just a generic photograph," which obviously I disagreed. And I just said, "Read the caption on that photo." As a pause for a couple of seconds, and she said, "Do you want me to take the photo off?"
It sounds like that's been a really bad experience for you, and I'm sorry that happened, and I'm glad that you followed it up, and I'm glad that it got it changed. But like every industry, and because I get a lot of people say, "I hate the media, I hate journalists," and that sort of stuff. Well, you know what? There's bad plumbers, there's bad teachers, there's bad everything, and mistakes do get made, and those sorts of things are happening at a very quick pace. It's no excuse. I understand that. But the fact you followed up and they've changed it, that's really great. But what I'm teaching you here is perhaps not for the situations where you'll get, you happen to be in the background of something or whatever like that. I can't teach you how to handle that, but it sounds like you've done a really good job by following it up. But, if you see it elsewhere and the same sort of thing, you do something, but you can follow it up with press counsel and that sort of stuff. But it did sound like they've done what they've done, and they did seem sorry. So yeah, I hope that's okay. Yeah, I
just wanted to ask that, just any tips and so forth with
about how to handle
that.
That
one.
That doesn't happen that often generally, but when it does, I think what you've done is the best. You didn't know you were getting photographed, and it's not something you can control. And a lot of the time with any sort of media, you put out, you try to control it to a certain extent, but you can't control whether you were snapped at something or, whether your business logo was in the background or anything like that. So what I think you've done is perfect. But there's no way you can media manage that, or you don't even need to really. It's what you've done sounds quite right. You can't plan for that. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Cool.
Sounds like you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, Tim.
Yeah.
Well, I was in the right place at the right time, I think, to be honest. It's, but just the misrepresentation, I think, was the thing there. It was, as Simone said, if it's used in a similar light and all that, that's totally fine. I gave my permission for that, but not to have a caption on there that suggests that I was the person that was going to jail.
That's so bad. I'm sorry. Well, and for those who perhaps are interested, when you do interviews with media organisations, they give you a whole bunch of examples, and a lot of them are legal ones, and they might say, you know, X, Y, and Z brand has been counterfeited, or, you know, has been contaminated, or whatever. You're putting a story up on a website, it's not proven, or, you know, there's, yeah, what picture do you put up with it? And one of the tests is to make sure that you put a generic picture up, and you'd be surprised the amount of people who, when they're first learning, don't realize that they perhaps put the brand up, if they have named the brand or if it's proven or whatever. But I always go the save. So if it was a milk, that my test was a milk brand, and I did, instead of having a carton of milk that identified or linked any brand to that situation, which it would have, I did a stock photo of someone pouring a jug of milk into a glass. So you still knew it was about milk, but it didn't link any particular brand to it, if you get what I mean. So that's yeah, those sorts of things need to be taken into consideration. So yeah, it sounds like you did well.
Have we got any other questions from anybody else or comments? No one's jumping forward. So I am going to ask you guys, please, I'm just going to pop in the chat box a link to a survey, and I know that you are probably sick of completing surveys like me. You know, you get bombarded with them all the time. Totally appreciate it. However, this one's really important. If we want to continue to do events like this, it's really important for us to know whether you actually liked it or not, and what other things you might want us to do. So if I can get you to click on that link and jump in and do the survey, it should only take you about 5 minutes or so. We will also be emailing it out with the recording of this session and Simone's notes, and no homework this week because it's the last session. So look out for that in your inboxes if you don't get a chance to do the survey now. We will send you a reminder later on. So I think that's all. Thank you so much for being here again. Thanks to Skyly, especially at NRM, and
Yes, thank you.
funding from the National Land Care Program for us being able to put this workshop on. I think it's been a really good start, and we had quite a few people who are interested in doing this course that we couldn't actually fit into this session. So we're hoping that we might be able to put one on, or a similar workshop on later on this year or early next year. If you're interested in doing anything more advanced, or you want to get more into depth into one of the topics that we've covered in this session, just pop it in your feedback for me. We'll take that on board, and we might even look at doing, again, another round of kind of refresher basic sort of stuff, and then maybe a more advanced course. So obviously dependent on funding and whether or not we get enough people interested. But yeah, please do let us know in your feedback if there's anything extra that you want to learn about later on down the track. Huge big thank you to Simone, who I think has done a fabulous job. We did put her on the spot with saying that we needed to do the course via Zoom, and I think given everything that's happened in Victoria and all the restrictions that are in place, that was probably a good decision at the time. So I think she's done exceptionally well, although, you know, we all like to get together in person. I think this has been a really good alternative. So thank you, Simone.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Bearing with me with my Zoom errors.
Yeah, that's it. They happen to everybody. Don't worry. So thanks so much, everybody. And we hope to see you at a MacKillop event sometime soon in the future. We've got a few spring crop walks coming up, which will hopefully be able to go ahead. So please, it'd be lovely to see you there if we can. Otherwise, we'll catch you again next time on a Zoom hookup. Thanks, everyone.